We'll be having Winning the Next Generation, Engaging and Informing Youth in the Digital Age. I'll be the moderator for this session. I'm Dr. Harshika Verma from India. And I've been given this honor to be the moderator for this session. And I'd first and foremostly like to thank Glenn for this opportunity. Also, at the same time, I also come from CASIP Batch 2. So a big hello to all my friends from CASIP as well. Right. Good afternoon. Across Asia, young people are shaping politics and public discourse. Not in town halls or on television, but on screens that fit in their hands. They are swiping, scrolling, and shaping narratives faster than institutions can respond. And for communicators, whether in newsrooms, campaigns, or civic spaces, this creates both an extraordinary opportunity and a serious responsibility. Today's conversation, we'll be asking two very important questions. How can we reach young audiences authentically, responsibly, and effectively? Secondly, what works and what backfires when trying to connect with this generation online? And to take this conversation forward, I have a wonderful panel with me. I'd like to introduce Ben Guerin, co-founder of Topham Guerin, known for pioneering digital-first political and civic campaigns that understand the pulse of the online world. Ben has helped shape some of the most innovative digital strategies globally, blending creativity with data-driven insight. His work has redefined how emotion, humor, and shareability can drive modern political communication. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ben. Next, we have Jackie Manabit, award-winning Filipino journalist who's redefining how traditional newsrooms can speak to young digital native audiences. She has led multimedia storytelling initiatives that make complex issues accessible and relatable. And she is a strong advocate for authenticity, transparency, and newsroom innovation in the social media era. Please welcome Jackie Manabit. Chance Zhu, political strategist and youth engagement researcher who studies what drives young people's political behavior and online activism. Chance's research explores how values, culture, and technology shape the civic identities of Gen Z and millennials, and how leaders can engage them meaningfully in digital spaces. Chance Zhu. Finn Werner, digital campaign strategist who has worked at the intersection of data, content, and strategy in elections and civic campaigns across regions. Finn specializes in using analytics to decode what resonates with different audiences online, turning insights into impactful digital storytelling and strategy. Please welcome Finn. Our goal today is not just to share insights, but to unpack what actually works in reaching youth and what ethical lines communicators must hold. So welcome all of you, and thank you for being on this panel today. Before we start with the actual conversation, I'd request my friends in the technical team to please play the video that I've handed over to them. It's a short video that sets the tone for the topic. It's basically a documentary on Netflix that I would recommend to each one of you to watch, especially in current times. Definitely this particular movie is in no way trying to steer the communication for this particular panel in any way, but it's a relevant documentary that we all must watch in today's times. So please play the trailer.
When you go to Google and type in "climate change is," you're going to see different results depending on where you live and the particular things that Google knows about your interests.
That's not by accident, that's a design technique.
What I want people to know is that everything they're doing online is being watched, is being tracked. Every single action you take is carefully monitored and recorded.
A lot of people think Google's just a search box and Facebook's just a place to see what my friends are doing. What they don't realize is there's entire teams of engineers whose job is to use your psychology against you.
I was the co-inventor of the Facebook like button.
I was the president of Pinterest,
Google, Twitter, Instagram.
There were meaningful changes happening around the world because of these platforms. I think we were naive about the flip side of that coin.
We get rewarded by hearts, likes, thumbs up, and we conflate that with value and we conflate it with truth.
A whole generation is more anxious, more depressed.
I always felt like fundamentally it was a force for good. I don't know if I feel that way anymore.
Facebook discovered that they were able to affect real-world behavior and emotions without ever triggering the user's awareness. They are completely clueless.
Fake news spreads 6 times faster than true news. We're being bombarded with rumors.
If everyone's entitled to their own facts, there's really no need for people to come together. In fact, there's really no need for people to interact.
We have less control over who we are and what we really believe.
If you want to control the population of your country, there has never been a tool as effective as Facebook.
We built these things and we have a responsibility to change it. The intention could be, how do we make the world better? If technology creates mass chaos, loneliness, more polarization, more election hacking, more inability to focus on the real issues, we're toast.
This is checkmate on humanity.
Thank you. Thank you. So whenever you'll have the time, please watch the complete 1-hour documentary. I'm not promoting it, but it's something that I do in my classrooms when I teach them. So I would definitely recommend to each one of you as well. Coming back to the panel, I'll start with Ben. So Ben, to start with, to give everybody a perspective, you've seen digital campaigning transform at lightning speed. And what are the biggest shifts you've noticed in how campaigns capture and keep young people's attention, especially in this era of short attention spans and viral shareability?
Brilliant. Well, thanks for playing that short trailer. I've got a different point of view, perhaps, than the one expressed by Netflix, which is I'm a techno-positivist. I have an optimistic view of social media and of technology, and I think that actually getting people excited about policies and politicians and having people and politicians better connected is actually a good thing for democracy. I think it makes our democratic institutions more accountable. I think it lowers the playing field for new insurgent political forces because instead of having to compete for headlines, which has been the way through most of the last century, you can compete for seconds. And if you can compete for seconds and have a compelling proposition with voters, then you can achieve political power. So then that's like one trend that I think is actually a positive. I think what's also really interesting is the best way to understand politics and particularly how it works with the youth is the currency of attention is how political movements are created and lost. And when you're competing for attention, your competition isn't just the politician on the other side of the aisle. Your competition is Taylor Swift, Mr. Beast, Manchester United, and anybody else that's producing content that's being shared online. So how many of you think that you stack up against Mr. Beast? It's pretty hard, right? So we have a really tough job to make our content interesting, entertaining, relevant to the issues that people really care about. Now, young people are a great litmus test for this because they have an incredible filter for BS. They have a very low tolerance for anything that isn't directly relevant and interesting for them. So if you can make your message relevant for young people, then well done, you've cracked the code and you'll probably achieve political success with other groups as well.
Right, that's a wonderful positive way to look at it. Finn, I'd like you to comment on, you've been in the thick of digital election campaigns, and what have you learned about how strategy needs to change when the real contest happens on social media rather than on the debate stage? So how would you respond to that?
Okay, so first of all, that was quite a downer, this video, I think. That was pretty intense, and it's funny because the first thing I realized that Ben and I, we work in the same field because I see it exactly like Ben. I actually think there's more chances and opportunities than threats that come with social media. And looking at the new ways to approach it, because you made up the comparison or you came up with the comparison of the debate stage, there was no switch or there was no change from the debate stage to social media. There were many steps in between. For example, the TV. And there's just one thing about media in general, not just social media, but media in general, you always have to play by its rules. So when talk shows came up on TV, the politicians had to change their behavior to adopt to the rules of talk shows. So you had a certain amount of screen time, you had these blocks where you could place your statements, you were trying to say something that would get picked up by the news on the next day, and politicians learned to play by the rules of the talk shows, and now there's a new sheriff in town, which is social media, which comes with their own rules. So every platform has a different rule set, so it's very difficult to narrow that down on a stage like this now. It's an insanely huge topic, but you just always have to play by the rules of the media, of the multiplicator that you're playing with. And social media won't be the last thing. There'll be something else at some point in time. We don't know what, we don't know when. Well, there are some ideas and it's starting to get a bit more clear every day what's coming next. But there will be other rules the politicians will have to follow then. And as Ben said, you're comparing or you're competing with Taylor Swift and Mr. Beast. So when you want to talk to young people and address your messages to young people, you have to compete with actual cat videos and top models and actually entertaining stuff, or stuff that's far more entertaining than politics is. So well, that's it's a curse and a blessing at the same time.
Right. I'll come to Chance now, since you're talking of the fact that there is a positive to the whole social media usage and all of those things. And yes, every side has two coins to it, but every coin has two sides to it, I'm sorry. But Chance, since you look into political behavior and you say that you've also looked into political psychology and all of those things, so I want to know from you that when you talk of social media usage, and you look at it positively, which is great, but at the same time, there is also a side to it which calls for transparency and which calls for authenticity and which also calls for awareness, because not many, like we are the people who are talking about it day in, day out, right? So we are aware of how social media works and how AI is working, but there is definitely a large chunk of population out there which is not aware of what goes behind social media and why are they seeing the video that they are seeing, and why are they seeing the similar kind of video, and why are they not seeing the other side? They don't understand the algorithm. They're just watching it continuously because that's the kind of matter that's coming on their phone. So if I'm watching, for example, BJP-driven content, I will be watching that whole day and my opinion will be based on that, right? So what is it that you would like to talk about in terms of transparency, authenticity, and showing people both sides on social media and how to beat the algorithm?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Chance. I'm from KMT, the center-right party, and we are the majority in the parliament in Taiwan. And I work in the international affairs, but also look closely to social media. And because I study political psychology, so yeah, it's a very interesting question. Like I totally agree with Ben and Finn. It's like politician now is like a super difficult job. If you want to be more present on social media, if you want to be seen by the people, you have to be humor. You have to do more sarcasm things. So let me give you some example from KMT. KMT is actually one of the oldest political party in Taiwan. We just celebrate 130 years old last year. So, but like, because KMT is old to some extent, and like, I'm class young politician, batch 16, and when my friend Lucas when batch 6, KMT was actually quite having a very low supporting rate. The poll number shows KMT is like 9%. So people call KMT 9% party for a very long time. But like just last month, September, the polls finally, for the first time in 8 years, show that KMT now regained the highest party support in Taiwan. Now we have around 38% support to 40% support. And I believe it's credit to our very successful social media strategy. And we have like 3 principles I wanted to share with you guys from our practice in Taiwan. So first is that a very direct and timely engagement. When I first joined KMT in 2021, if the social media manager of our official account want to comment and reply a response, they have to write it first and present to the director, and maybe after 2 hours, the director will say, okay, you can leave this comment. But like you know, the algorithm will think, oh my God, why are you doing this? So the post won't be shared. It won't be retweeted by the algorithm. But now our director have given the authority to those social media managers in the KMT, a 130 years old party. They are only 23 and 25, but they can just freely leave comment like under like our official posts. So which increase the engagement. I don't know how many like political parties in Asia can do this. I know, especially in the Conservative Party, it might be difficult, but it's worth trying. That's a successful attempt from the KMT. And we are doing, second is that we're trying to do like very viral-friendly design. All the short video, all the post pictures is designed for not to have more like, but designed for people who will be willing to share it on Instagram.
I'm sorry to cut you in between. So have you removed the number of likes? Can you still make out how many likes the particular post has, or have you removed?
We don't remove the likes. We don't hide it.
You don't hide.
We don't hide it.
Likes.
But the design, but all those, especially image and video, is to design to make people wanted to share it, not just to like it. Okay. And it's very important because I don't know, in Taiwan, a lot of, especially older generation, like above 60s, they are on WhatsApp line. They are not on Facebook. So you have to make them first wanted to share on like media, like message media. So that's our purpose, and this is super successful. And the last one is humor with purpose. So we are opposition party, and every short video, every post, every picture that we do, we cartoonized those ruling party figures. So make young people also think, oh my God, it's fun. It's interesting to see our short video. So to some extent, when we compete with Netflix, when we compete with Taylor Swift, we have some grounds as well. And because Taiwan, we speak Chinese, so a lot of mainland Chinese people, Chinese people watch closely to Taiwan politics as well. So when we do it fun, they share it as well. So that's the 3 principles I wanted to share with you guys.
Right. So there are definitely certain measures that you've been taking to beat that. I'd like to know from Jackie, since you've been independently now creating content and doing storytelling at the same time, and it's easier said than done, because everybody feels that making a 3-second reel or a 10-second reel and putting it online is a very easy job, but it's not as easy as it sounds. And like Ben says, that to capture attention in those 3 seconds is way more challenging than doing a 1-hour show where you have enough room to experiment. So I would like to know from you, how is the youth responding to digital storytelling? And like he says that you have to add a humor to it at the same time. How do you manage doing that on your platform? And how has it changed for you?
Okay, those were 3 questions, right? Okay. First is, I think I learned from the best. So I worked at the the biggest traditional media in the Philippines. It's ABS-CBN for 17 years. Before I've put up my own, it's a creative lab. Now I'm helping other creators, journalists. I'm teaching content creators under Earth Journalism Network. Thank you. And it's a good collaboration that we need to learn from content creators. So it's not an overnight lesson. I've built my digital persona since 2016, since Facebook became a Farmville to, It's becoming a political campaign platform. I've built it for years. But I think the biggest pivot, especially for us journalists, was during the pandemic. And in the Philippines, when the government has shut down the biggest network, which is ABS-CBN, that's where I worked for. But for journalists, for me, personally, I think I learned to be an influencer or a content creator from a politician. You mentioned a while ago, it's hard to be a politician, right? But I learned from a politician how to be an influencer. It was part of my master's thesis, and the politician is President Marcos Jr. So the thesis is reinventing Marcos Jr. and TikTok. Well, the journalists and the newsrooms aren't looking at TikTok because it's cringe, everybody's dancing there, dubbing or whatever. Marcos Jr. is there acting like an influencer. Like how? He's doing this mundane stuff like combing his hair, showing off his dogs, showing off his sons who are the same age as those who are using the platform TikTok. So it's the best blank canvas for the young voters. And you have to understand, in the Philippines, majority or more than 60 to 70% of the voters are the young generation, are on TikTok. So it's the best blank canvas. So I checked all of his videos, his content, what is he talking about. He never talked about the past. He never talked about the policies. He was just this cool dad. How can you get angry at a cool dad, right? It's hard. It's hard to get angry at a cool dad. So it was a blank canvas. It was a perfect entry point for a politician like him with a son of a dictator to reinvent himself as the cool dad. So as a journalist who's finding it hard to find the lost audience, I studied him and all other influencers, and I acted as one too, as a journalist, and I combined it. And over the years, I think I know how the influencers are hacking the algorithm. It's this generation, or using social media, is they are embracing the features of that social media platform. They are trying to understand the guidelines. And the number one key, I think, is that they're acting like a friend. So this generation is tired of BS, as you've mentioned. They want authenticity. They want you to be genuine. So they don't operate on trust alone, but they embrace the features and they act as a friend, because young generation now is looking for a friend, looking for someone they could trust, and not someone or a reporter or a journalist who's behind the camera or just behind the byline. Like, who are you? Why are we going to trust you? So after 17 years of being on being in the traditional media, being a producer and writer for documentary shows, I've put up my own, and I'm helping content creators and journalists do the same to resonate to the audience that we are losing. So I'm looking at social media as a marketing strategy, as a marketing tool, and then pulling back them again to the way we do traditional journalism.
Right, interesting. I'd like to come back to you, Ben, with this question that I have in my mind for a very long time, that where do you draw the line, especially with political strategies to do with social media, where do you draw the line between creativity and clickbait? Creativity and clickbait.
I would sort of challenge that and say I wouldn't necessarily see it in those two terms of like being creative versus clickbait. I think that there's a lot of noise by people like Netflix producers talking about the harms of social media and the dangers of when you compress your message and make it too simplistic. But we don't often think about the dangers of not doing that. I don't think it's a good thing for democracy if politicians don't know how to speak to voters. I don't think it's a good thing for democracy when politicians aren't able to sum up their manifesto into a simple statement that people can get behind. I think that actually when we talk about responsibility in political campaigning, politicians and political campaigners have a responsibility to make their message accessible to the people that they're trying to get to vote for them. And we forget about this. Now, if the way to do that is to create TikTok memes and weird funny videos and whatnot, that is a good thing. And you've got to look at the tactics that are being employed in successful campaigns in the aggregate. not as one thing. So you might look at, I'll give an example. We work with the current Prime Minister of New Zealand, Christopher Luxon, and when he entered politics, he came from a marketing background. He worked for Unilever in Canada, and he was the CEO of Air New Zealand. Pretty important job in New Zealand if you're the CEO of the airline, because we're an island far away, so that's how anyone's ever going to get there. So he understood the value of marketing, but he wasn't an experienced politician. And he came to us and he said, what do I need to do to connect with voters? Now, he had a great platform. He was going to lower taxes. He was going to help people buy houses. He was going to do all these things, but nobody was going to listen if you sat there reading out your policies and talking about taxes. So we just simplified everything into, we're going to get the economy back on track. And then we made that message relevant to everybody. We had him doing TikTok videos. Get ready with me. Which blue shirt should I wear today? Which tie should I wear? We created a game on TikTok where people could put a bald filter on. The guy was bald. So we had him people could put a filter on and they could, play the tax cut game. And messages on screen were showing examples of our policies, but the key message was getting New Zealand back on track. What's the lesson from this? When you simplify your manifesto into a simple meme, a phrase that everyone can get behind, it makes it easier for people to interact with your platform. And if you look at those tactics on their own, you might call it clickbait. You might be cynical. You might say this is a bad thing. But actually, that is exactly what politicians need to be doing.
Right. I'll go back to Chance. I want to know from you, since you're a political strategist, just like Ben, when we are talking of authenticity, because I'm coming back to it again and again, because I deal with students on a regular basis, and they are the primary users of social media. And even though I do completely agree with all the benefits that you're talking of social media here, but there is a flip side to it, which you cannot ignore, because we come across students every day who are influenced, I'm not saying politically, but they do have influence of social media, which is not a very positive one as well. Yes, if you're saying political parties need to use it in a certain manner and they are doing it the correct way and it's good for democracy, all of that is correct. But what I'm saying is that there is a side of social media which is also harmful and which needs to be controlled. I'm not saying you have to suppress freedom of speech, but there has to be certain regulations to it, which, there is a certain reason why they are saying that social media should not be used by children below 16 years of age. If it's that good, it should be made free for everybody, right? There is enough things on social media which are not very positive. So how would you respond to that?
Oh, you said Chance, so I didn't know that you were talking to me.
Finn, I meant Finn.
Okay, so I only listened with one ear because I didn't know that this question was addressing me. Okay,
now you do.
However, you have a very fair point with that. So it's true that social media has some very bad sides to it. Obviously it does. I guess everything does, right? And the problem is that we're in an open lab kind of situation. So we're testing social media on ourselves and on us as a civilization and humanity without even knowing the potential consequences and without knowing the outcome. So this is an experiment which has never been done before. And I can tell that you are more on the critical side when looking at social media. You can't really hide that. And I can see that Ben, somebody who's making money off of social media, is more on the positive side. And I also see myself more on the positive side. But there's nuances to everything. For example, it's a good idea to keep young people, I don't know if 16 is the right border, but it's a good idea to keep young people away from that. It's just the same as we keep young people away from cigarettes or alcohol or something like that. Because it always says social media obviously has addicting qualities. And this very evil looking trailer that you showed at the beginning, it showed that the algorithms are perfected to make us addicted, right? So you all know this doom scrolling behavior on TikTok or Instagram Reels, and you just swipe and swipe and swipe, and there's no end to it, right? So many people in this room probably can identify with that. I certainly can. I spend too much time on Instagram and TikTok. However, the chances or the opportunities, for me, they are overweighing. Because not only did social media make political communication more democratic than it's ever been before, because you're not reliant on the TV or there are no gatekeepers in the press which probably will not write about you, even though they should. You can just go into a teenager can just upload a TikTok video and just go viral within 5 minutes or within 10 minutes, and he can reach millions of people. That's something that was never possible before. So there's so many chances that come with that. And I'm just always impressed, Ben, how sharp you are when you talk about this stuff. It's impressive, because the thing that you said, the politician has to be there where the voters are. So it's the politician's duty and the politician's role and how do you say it, responsibility to go where the voters are. And when the voters do not watch TV anymore, or do not read the newspaper anymore, mainly spend their time on TikTok and Instagram, it's the politician's responsibility to go there and get them there. And also, one last thing, it's a don't hate the player, hate the game kind of situation. So if you don't do it, you leave the field for the political enemy or the political opponent, because they will be there and they will not skip social media because they think it's a good thing, because they've seen it in the Netflix trailer. They will be there, and if you're not there, you have a comparative disadvantage. So you should not do that. And one final thing, but I agree with the point that it's made things a lot more complicated, and probably it would be better if social media weren't here. Maybe, but it is here now, so we have to play with the situation and take it as it is. We cannot deny reality, even though a reality where social media didn't exist might have been better for us, but we do not know, and we shouldn't even think about that, because that's not the situation.
Yeah, so as individuals, I think we need to up our game, and we need to be more aware of how to use social media rather than the other way around. Jackie, coming back to you, I would like to ask, like I talked about storytelling. So I have this question in mind that earlier, the information that used to flow down was usually from television and radio and whatever, the traditional mediums of communication. And, you had that 1 hour window where you could do whatever you could on television. Even now, there are news channels. But the youth today is not reading the paper or looking at television. If I ask in a class of, let's say, 50, there'll be hardly anyone telling me that I read the newspaper this morning. And I'll be very, very surprised. And I'll definitely doubt his answer that he did read the newspaper. And same with television. They're not sitting back at 8 o'clock waiting for the news anchor to come and tell them what the latest is. But they're definitely, since my students are students of journalism, they're definitely following certain news anchors online, and especially on platforms like Instagram and TikTok. Do you think that the information that they get in a 30-second reel or a 20-second reel is making them aware, or is making them feel that they're aware and they're under the illusion that they know the whole story, but they just know the surface of it, and they really don't believe in going in the depth of it? Because I was talking to Ben also the other day that, there are certain conflicts that are happening around the world, and everybody will start posting about hashtags, hashtag a certain country and say save lives. But when you ask them in detail, as to what is it that's actually happening there, they wouldn't know the whole thing, because they are following a particular trend. So, how would you respond to that?
Okay, wait. Okay, let's hit rewind. When there were no televisions back then, where do we get our information? Right? It's the radio. It's the newspaper. People were adopting to television then. And it's the same thing with social media. It's just another tool. I see it as another tentacle of journalism, of information. Now, I think what you're trying to say, it's social media is dumbing down the young generation. I would disagree. Look at Asia. Who is leading the protests, the rallies? Who has the voice now? Who has the power? Even in, it's in Nepal recently. It's the Gen Zs who elected the highest position in their country. So I think they are not unaware. They are not unaware of what is happening. They are actually engaged if you engage them. So that is one of my learnings when I was one of the first Southeast Asian journalists to jump or leverage the format of TikTok. So that is one of my realization when I was experimenting with this vertical format, is that the young generation, they want to be aware, they want to be engaged, they have these advocacies, but they feel that the news is no longer for them. The language is no longer for them. They have a different language. So how do we approach them? Just like political communicators or political strategists, we have to be where the audience is. It's our entry point. We have to make them feel that we are there for them. Now, the beauty of social media is that it has democratized fame, it has democratized freedom of speech, but the real problem here, the real villain that we're talking about is not really dumbing down the audience, but those who are the content creators who are spreading misinformation, spreading disinformation. These are the real problem. If we're not going to be there for them, if you're not going to be on social media, where will they pick their right information? So that's why I am also advocating, I am highly advocating digital literacy to the students, to the content creators, to journalists. And I'm thankful for this kind of conferences because we speak about this. There is a crisis in communication because we are not there for the young generation. And I've been telling newsrooms this, is that if we want to secure the future of the newsrooms, if we want to secure our future, is we have to speak the language of the future. We have to learn them because they are the future consumers.
Yeah, right. So very valid point, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Because parallelly to what we are discussing here, if we have digital literacy along with whatever is happening on social media, I think that will be great because what Ben is saying is that, this is important, and I understand that it's important for social media campaigns and politicians to be very, very active on a medium which is used by the younger generation. But at the same time, if there is also enough digital literacy that's happening around the world, then I think it's a fair deal. And I'd like Ben to respond to that, how do you think we can balance between making people aware of what it is on social media and at the same time running a campaign? Because there is enough misinformation and disinformation that happens. So how do you look at it? I mean, can a political party contribute to that?
I mean, look, political parties of all kinds are probably sometimes guilty of misinformation, and at other times they're probably doing a good job of, explaining policies. Digital literacy it's one of these abstract concepts that means a lot of things to a lot of people, but we all probably have slightly different understandings of what digital literacy is. The way I like to think of it is if you can explain what you want to say, if you have a message that you can convey to people on the platforms that you control, your Facebook account, your Twitter account, your Instagram account, and that message is cutting through with voters or customers or whoever you're speaking to, so they're saying the same thing back to you, then they have digital literacy. You have digital literacy. You are using these channels properly. I think social media sometimes is guilty of compressing complicated subjects into hashtags and 3-second videos. And on their own, these will not explain what's going on. But social media is also the place where people share 50-minute long clips from Joe Rogan interviews, where people have detailed policy discussions. Social media also isn't just the main social media platforms we talk about. A few people have mentioned Nepal, and the elections were made on Discord. So if you ban social media, people will turn the comments section of an auction website into social media. Social media is something that's there whether we like it or not. So how do we deal with that? Number one, I think you use different platforms and different types of content for different things. Sometimes you explain, sometimes you just drive awareness of a key phrase or whatnot, and you need to plan your strategy accordingly. Secondly, we need to think in the unit of memes. Memes are units of information. Some memes are funny pictures of cats. Some memes are videos of people falling over. Other memes are slogans like MAGA, which represent nationalism, patriotism, nostalgia, all these complex ideas are bundled into a single unit of information that's 4 letters long. So the art of political communication is distilling your philosophy, your worldview, your manifesto, your choice for voters into a meme that they can pick up with and run with. And if you can do that, then you are digitally literate, and that's what the real challenge is.
Yes, please.
I just want to I think add what they say, and also one of my observations. I really agree with what Finn, Ben, and Yaki just said. I really believe social media from our attempt in Taiwan, social media is just a platform. I believe it's still, especially for political communication, content still matters. What's a post? What's a written words that you are doing? What's a picture? What's a concept? What's the main thing that you want to reflect? So, for example, in Taiwan, we are the main opposition party. So our goal on social media strategy is very clear. Is we want to relate to people's frustration toward already the third term of a current ruling party. They win 3 terms already. They are entering their 10th years of ruling, but now the government is a bit toward authoritarianism. So our media strategy very clear. Try to reflect the frustration of youth unemployment, still like high housing prices. They promised that they'll deal with it within 10 years, but they couldn't do it. So we try to relate to those young people, their frustration. And another example, and I'm going to show you a very short video later, is that we just finished our parliamentary and presidential election last January. But just within half of a year, there are volunteers all around the street. Apparently, they support the current ruling party, saying that they want to recall all the local district, all the district member of parliament, KMT member of parliament. And so they try to launch a full recall campaign. They try to bring down all the KMT member of parliament. And we just finished the recall vote in this July and this August. And we win all the recall votes. We saved 31 of our member of parliament in the recall votes because of this animation advertisement I wanted to show you. So please play that animation. There's this South Park style animation that we try to mock our ruling party, which, yeah, South Park style. And the protagonist is called Principal Liar. Principal Liar is our current president. Her Chinese family name is Lai. Yeah, so yeah, please play the video.
然而，校长、乘客都说你走错726公路，整个大罢免、大迷路啊！
没错的，那是因为你们智商不足啊！
哦，你再这样，我要唱歌喽！
没意见了吧？大家赞成吗 ？OK， Jason。
Our school's computer lab should run on nuclear power.
对，时代不一样，用核能已是各国趋势。
不能这样了，非核家园是当年招生卖点啊。
但是不能违背科学、理性，落后世界潮流。莱尔校长，你看。
How about we take a vote?
投票好。1比2，太好了，那就是我赢了。
What？
什么？
拜拜。 不是表决多数赢就可以，不是这样哦。
So the massive recall vote actually are 2 phases. The first phase is all about recalling of the KMT member of parliament. But the second phase, we combine a referendum about whether we should restore our nuclear power plant. So this innovation is for that. And what he said that a nuclear-free homeland is a main slogan for the ruling party. And what he said, democracy isn't just about who gets more votes. It's all what he really said. So this 1-minute innovation, South Park innovation went super viral. All the young people are sharing. And now our president has like one of the lowest supporting rate. It's around like 25 or something, all because of this. And young people now are calling the president when he's on the street. They call him Principal Liar directly. So to some extent, I really believe still social media matters, but content, I believe, is still the most important thing. So I really recommend, no matter you're from NGO or if you're a young politician, political workers, try something creativity. Try the content that really can relate to people's frustration.
How on earth did you claim the license for this? I'm pretty sure Comedy Central is not aware of this, are they? Okay, so do not send this to Comedy Central because they'll sue you. But it's still a nice video, though.
So I'm sure this comes across as a much better medium to reach out to the youth rather than a 1-hour-long debate or a speech. So I'm not surprised that it went viral and people are sharing it there. I'd like to know from Finn, got that right? Yeah, that we've talked enough about what works on social media. I'd like to know from you what does not work in social media and what backfires.
Well, that's pretty easy to say, I think, because as we've stated many times now, social media is just a tool and it's not a parallel world. It's just a little small part of our world that we all live in. So it's the same rules for your analog behavior. It's just be authentic. And there are many roads, or all roads lead to Rome. So there's not one blueprint how to be successful on social media. So if you're more of an introvert, serious kind of politician, you have to approach it in a different way than Donald Trump does, right? So it just has to suit your role and suit your character and personality. And if it does that, you'll be successful. Just be as congruent with yourself as possible, be as authentic as possible. And if you try to be someone you're not, you'll not be successful.
So we have a lot of politicians, across the board who are not very savvy with the latest social media tools and everything. And I'm sure they have a team to go with it who helps them do the right thing. There is also a portion, and there is a certain percentage of people who are not on social media. For example, people above a certain age, they're not on social media, right? And some of them are on Facebook, which is like a trailing concept now of social media. I mean, not many youngsters are using Facebook in certain parts of the world. So how do you think we can bring, Ben, this is for you, how do you bring those people on board in times of social media? There is a certain population which is not on social media because they are used to reading the newspaper and picking up news from there. But at the same time, there is a lot on social media that they should be aware of as well. So do you think that it's important for them, or should they just stick to the old mediums of communication that they are happy with?
So I would say, in our experience, more people are on social media than you would expect. We recently finished a project that we ran for a couple of years in Mongolia, and a surprising number of rural Mongolian herders are on Facebook. So, if they can be on Facebook, then a lot of your audience probably is as well. Social media means lots of different things. There are lots of different platforms out there. I think it's good to have a really broad definition of social media. Social media might just be the comments section of one of the most read, news blogs in your country. Social media might be Facebook groups. It might be group chats on WhatsApp or whatnot. So it starts with understanding what social media is. And then secondly, Chance, I really like what you were saying about content. And you gave us a brilliant example of that. I love that. A great content. I thought, South Park should be glad to have built that much cultural capital that, they've got a reference like that. But actually, content gets spread on social media, but because it's just a platform for good ideas to be shared with people. But if you have a great story to tell, and you're telling that story through great content, that story will be told on and off social media. I always think a great KPI for any campaign is if you're shaping the types of conversations that people are having around the dinner table, if you're shaping the conversation that people are having with their grandma when they go and visit her, and these kids are using the talking points that they've seen from the ads that you've shown them, then your campaign has been successful.
Right.
Social media doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Right. No, so what I was referring to was not the fact that social media is different for different people. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, I know that there is a large population, there is a greater population now on social media, but there is definitely, there is a population, there is a part of people, who are probably, above a certain age, I'm probably 60 above or 65 above, who are not very savvy with the new tools. Yes, they have it on their phone, but it's mostly monitored by their kids. And they are the ones who show them that this and this thing is happening. So what is it that we can do to bring them on board on social media? Or do you think it's just a natural process? It's just that in time they will get to it?
So I don't think it's the responsibility of politicians or journalists to bring people onto it. But I think...
No. I'm not saying that it's their responsibility. What I'm saying is that are there any ways of helping them get to that platform? Or is it just a natural process like every other thing that they get used to? They will also adapt to the change in social media. That people are shifting from,
Yeah, well, talking about audience segments here, Well, they don't have to be. We don't have to force them to be on
Exactly,
social
that's what
media.
I'm saying,
That's why
yeah.
we're using social media, because we want to target those who are on social media. But you can't force a certain segment to be on social media. And if I may add, former President Duterte doesn't have a social media, but is one of the most influential. And we know the Cambridge scandal, right? He had these trolls, he had this strategists, and they used it wrongly. But how do we,
I mean,
they don't have to be on social media.
Exactly, my point. That what I'm bringing across to the table now is that not everybody needs to be on social media, because the parallel mediums are very much there. You know, people who want to stick to TV and who want to stick to print can continue doing so. So what I'm saying is that people don't need to switch to social media just because everyone is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so one of the strategy that we, in the KMT, we're trying to deal with that is that, okay, so yeah, indeed, senior citizens, they might not on Facebook, they might not on TikTok, they might not on Threads, on Instagram, but they certainly are messaging. They certainly are using WhatsApp or Line. That's why when I opened this session, I said that one of our goals when we are doing short video, when we are doing like the pictures, when we're doing the posts, is that we want to make it shareable. So when we make it shareable, the young people will share it with their grandma online on WhatsApp, so they will see it.
Yeah.
So our strategy is to make those content has higher possibility to be brought to senior citizens on messaging app.
Right.
So that's our strategy. I don't know other people's strategy.
I agree.
Right. So, like you're saying that the content is the king, right?
Content is
content is good. Sometimes even if they're not on the platform, because I come across people who are telling me to, if they're not on Instagram, but they tell me to, can you convert that video and send it on WhatsApp so that I can share it? Yes, exactly. So that means that, like he's saying, and all of you are agreeing, that content works no matter what the platform is, right? So again, this is for everybody. How do you engage the youngsters through content on a regular basis? You know, how challenging it is to come up with content every day, and what are the variations that you can give to it, like, you know, memes and humor, and how do you keep the youth engaged?
Okay, so social media is always a bit downplayed, so people are always more willing to put money on ads in papers or TV. They always play down social media budgets, but that time should be over. Social media is a tough branch of marketing and of political marketing, and it should be taken as serious as every other branch. So what I think is you should give it away to young people. Give it to people that actually can do it. So the politicians themselves, they should not spend time on Reels on TikTok and look for trends and try to adapt them or propose their own ideas. They should just call Ben Gieren and let him do it for them. Now, I'm just joking, but that's why there's a business to make off of this. I mean, it's such a difficult discipline, and we're not even scratching the surface here. I mean, for example, we have been talking about TikTok. TikTok's not even allowed in India. So all the TikTok part is not even relevant for you, for example, right? And you have to know what are the different rules of the different platforms in the different countries. And all the different platforms have their own rules themselves. And these trends, they are so vivid and they are so fastly rising and going again. So you need to really be at the pulse of time. You know, you really have to be active. You have to spend a lot of time on the platforms, and the politicians and the campaign teams within the parties, they cannot do that. So that's why there are agencies like Toppen Girum or like Digitalien, what we do, because it's just not doable for the political people themselves. And don't even try, because it's a full-time job. So and I want politicians to spend their time with something else. I don't want the politicians to scroll Reels. They are supposed to do something else.
Exactly.
They should do policy work and actually be in their
As
committees.
being on social media posting Reels.
Yeah, right. That's why they should get people for that. But one last thing to the topic we talked about before, you can actually lose on social media. So being on social media is not an asset itself. So if you post bad content or if you do it in a bad way, it's better to not do it. So you can actually lose some on social media. So it should always be with a strategy. It should always be thought out. It should always be done well. Otherwise, it's going to hurt you and damage you and your campaign and reputation.
Right. We've talked about most of the things to do with social media, its usage, youth engagement, all of it. Again, I'd like to bring you back to authenticity and transparency, and I want your comments on it, because I understand that usage of social media is important for politicians, or for anybody for that matter, for any political, non-political influencer or public figure, right? But, how much of it is authentic on social media for anybody? For example, let's take an example of any individual. You get up in the morning and you say, woke up like this. Did you actually wake up like this? No, you did not. Let me finish, just 1 minute. You did not. So there is a filter that you do put, and which is okay, but how do you cross that bridge of authenticity and transparency on social media is something that I would like to learn from you. And how fair is it? It's fair because nobody wants to put out a bad picture in the public arena. But when you look at it from the angle of an audience which is not mature enough to understand all of this, for youngsters, below the age of 18. So how do you make them understand that there is a filter to it and you should not fall for certain things on social media?
I think you're confusing authenticity with the filters, and I woke up like this with the makeup. What we're talking about here is
just giving
genuine.
an example. There are other...
But the young generation, they value authenticity when it comes to your approach on your stand on issues, right? Or if you're being genuine, they can smell BS if you don't really care about the environment. So that's the authenticity that I'm talking about.
Right.
When it comes to being a journalist, for example, I don't wear makeup when I talk to my followers or my supporters. That's part of the authenticity, and they like seeing scars, they like seeing freckles, they like that authenticity. If you're genuine, they know that you're true, they follow you. That's why I think there is a study. Yes, there is a study that the millennials and the Gen Zs, before they purchase or they go to a destination, a tourist destination, they look at influencers. And they go and they check the influencers who doesn't have makeup or they suffer maybe pitfalls whenever they travel, or they review a certain product, because that is the authenticity that we're looking for. That is the transparency that we're looking for. For newsrooms, we show them behind the scenes. We show them how are we doing our job, or how we do our job. That is the authenticity and the transparency that we are talking about.
Right. Finn, you want to add to that?
I just want to add one little thing. I think we've never been more authentic and more real than at the moment, because you never see people without makeup on TV, and the songs on the radio, they are never about real emotions. They are calculated songs from Hollywood, which are only programmed to get to your feelings. So there's so much real content out there. So, and that's something that's never been done before. So the chance of real, actual, authentic content was never there before. And also, I think it's a mistake to talk down on young people. I think young people are way better than recognizing what's fake than old people.
True.
So for example, we always say, young people or youngsters below 16, they are not able to tell what's real and what's fake. But now they are a lot better than that than older people are. So my grandfather, I do not have a grandfather, but he would be far more... It's a lot easier for him to think AI slop is real than young people that can immediately identify AI pictures.
Yes.
I think that's a really good example of what digital literacy means in practice. Like, digital literacy is not, I went to a course and I remembered 5 rules of detecting AI content. Digital literacy is, I've scrolled through a lot of nonsense in my time, and I know what a real filter looks like, and I know what an authentic post looks like, and Zoomers are the best people in the world when it comes to digital literacy like that.
I'm sorry, who are the best people?
Gen Z, Zoomers, people like Finn.
Right, so so we've covered most of it, and I'd like to now open the room to questions. There is a microphone stand in the center of the room, and if you could please start by introducing yourself and your affiliation, and keep your questions brief, please.
Thank you. Namaste, Singapore. My name is Bidyanand Chaudhary. I am youngest mayor in Nepal. My municipality is Chinnamasta Municipality, Saptari. My question is, with Gen Z leading digital movements across the world, do you think the digital space has become a new weapon in geopolitical influence, shaping narratives, mobilizing masses, and even redefining power structures? Thank you.
Redefining?
Redefining powers.
Redefining powers.
Redefining power structures. Thank you.
Who'd like to respond to that?
I'd like to pass on the question to somebody who understood it.
Sorry?
Maybe I didn't really understand everything, so maybe somebody else.
Okay, you want me to read the
You
question?
mean like the influence, the digital influence?
With Gen Z leading digital movements across the world, do you think the digital space has become a new weapon in geopolitical influence, shaping narratives, mobilizing masses, and even redefining power structures? Thank you.
Okay, so I believe Taiwan is a very good case to talk about it because we have a very hostile neighbor who speaks the same language. And now, they use simplified Chinese. We use traditional Chinese. But with the help of AI, it's very easy for them to spread like fake news or some just bad stuff that if they want to smear the government to decrease the public trust toward our government or even opposition as well. So indeed, I 100% agree with you that it has become a huge power that a hostile foreign government can do to influence the public trust, influence the democracy. So that's why indeed open democracy has become very fragile when you're facing this. That's, I believe, what's the main challenge of Taiwanese people, what we are trying to do. But also in the meantime, since 10 years ago, the Taiwanese government, we realized that it's a serious situation. So that's why a lot of friends from Japan, friends from Korea, even friends from Korea and from the United States are coming to Taiwan to seek our experience of doing fact check. Taiwan actually have one of the best fact check industry and online fact check big database. So, but it's more like Mandarin. But like indeed, we are doing this in a very innovative way to help protect our democracy. Yeah.
I hope that answered your question. Anyone else who has a question?
Good afternoon. So my question is very simple. So I also come from Nepal, so there was a lot of discussion related to the Gen Z movement. And my question today is, young people are among the most digitally active audience, but they also are highly exposed to viral misinformation and populist narratives. So how can we empower them critically to navigate political content while still encouraging meaningful civic participation? Thank you.
Happy to answer that because this is something that we spend a lot of time doing in our work at TG. Our clients tend to be the centre-right parties, and they tend to have a threat from the populist right-wing parties. And in recent years, there's a real worry about the rise of populism. Populism is not the problem. It is a symptom of the problem. The problem is our politicians have lost touch with voters. So I give you this really simple answer. If you want to beat radical populist claims, then the centre-right parties and parties in the centre more broadly need to have a really clear story to voters. You have to have a point of view on what's going on with the world and explain why you're going to fix it. And I think politicians have been, had mixed ability in being able to deal with that, and that's why they've left a void that has been filled by populists. But when the concerns that have led to the rise of populists are addressed, the centre bounces back. And that's something that we've seen in all of our campaigns.
Right, there's one at the back and then we'll come back to you.
Hello, hi, I'm Till with the German newspaper FAZ. I recently read a few articles on the topic of the peak of social media. So I think the main argument is that social media is not social anymore. So people don't interact, they just consume the content. So how do you think you can bring people to engage again and to comment and to be social on social media again? And if it's peak media, social media already, how what's next? What comes after that?
So it's very interesting. Social media is not social anymore. It's only consuming.
I think the intention of social media is to build a community, and that is where the engagement is brewing. That is where it is happening. So the metric here, when you post a social media content, is what is its impact? What is the feedback? Was there an action taken because of that post? That is the real engagement. If you're talking about the profits side of it, that is where we should be looking at the algorithm and how you create your message. For messaging, this is technical, kind of technical, but please make it quick, short, yeah, because if you confuse, you will lose. So make it simple to understand and you will create engagement. With the young generation right now, you're right that it's more of a lurker stage now. But they share. They share these videos, they share their content to the community that you have already built. So yes, you're right, it's no longer social, but there is still a community there.
Ben, would you like to add to that?
I think you're referring to the recent FT study. And so a couple of things. Number one, that study didn't include TikTok. And number two, that study didn't include things like Reddit and WhatsApp. And that's why I think it's really important that we take a broad definition of social media and also acknowledge that the habits of how we engage with social media content are also changing. So by some metrics, people are producing less and they're consuming more. But by other metrics, we're sending more in group chats, we're reposting reels, we're retweeting tweets. And so the nature of engagement has evolved. People used to say that Facebook was like the digital town hall. But I always thought that analogy wasn't really right, because when was the last time any of us went to a meeting at the town hall? Like, it's not really a right metaphor, right? So Facebook is the digital town hall because no one goes there. You know, we engage in a million other ways instead.
Right, we have a question here in the front row.
Thank you. I'm Yogesh. I'm an advocate. I'm seeing different colors of social media nowadays. When I come from India, I see there are different viewers, different content, and of course, leaders and self-proclaimed leaders. Now what I see on social media, they try to proclaim themselves as a leader, but they are not. Since social media has its own positive and negative, but what I want to ask you, that how long it's a medium of communication simply. It can be Facebook, it can be Instagram, it can be any other platform. But we don't find that we are confusing with the medium of communication to what we are doing on social media, like the last question we had. It is no more being, when we say things are more social, but being on social media doesn't mean that we are social now. When we are on social media, it does not mean that we are more social now.
So what
how
is
do
the
you
question?
see?
How do I see?
How do you see that there is a transformation taking place? We thought of being, we build ourselves as, there is media, then we had that social media, now we say that there are Gen Z. Things are transforming. But do you see that being on social media, we are not more social now?
He's probably saying that, that social media is not helping bridging the gap. Yeah. It's widening the gap.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree.
I'm not wrong.
I 100% agree with the trend of like social media is creating more, bubbles. You know, people just stuck in the bubbles. But in Taiwan, there's already a trend. I feel like it's a backlash. You know, especially all the social psychology research studies show that social media interaction is not a real interaction. It will create depression. It will create mental health issues. And like young people in Taiwan now have become more and more aware of this issue. So there is a trend in Taiwan, especially young people from 18 to 30. They are using social media, Instagram posts to attract more people to join running club, to join, Tuesday night workout. And it becomes more and more trendy and by using social media to meet people in real life. And I think it's a trend in Taiwan. I heard in Australia there's like similar trend around the world as well, Philippines as well, I see. So I think to some extent I think there's a backlash, and I'm seeing a turning point now in Taiwan, at least in Taiwan or Philippines, other way.
Yes. No, absolutely. I think that's something nearly globally. And there's one big mistake that we always do when talking about social media, and that inherits every question and every panel. It's talking about social media like it's a thing. So there's not one social media. So social media means so much. Like Ben said, social media can be discussing a forum post, or it can be arguing in the family group chat. That's also social media. It's just social media is so broad, and it's ever evolving. For example, Ben said, now we are reposting reels and we are retweeting posts on X. That's growing more, other than posting yourself. It's just, in Europe, social media and especially the vertical video content peaked in like 2020, 2021 with the whole pandemic thing, and that's when TikTok popped off. And since then, I sense, and there's also some studies that prove that, I sense a decline. People want to go back to an analog life. Like you said, for example, one last thing, in Germany, there's one thing where they create social media hype for certain types of events. For example, they meet at the park and they eat yogurt or pudding with a fork. I don't know if you've heard about that.
That's a discussion for another day, how the Germans use social media. Because, I would like to know, since you've mentioned it now, how do you think that people out there, are they active on social media? Are the politicians active? Or is it any different from South Asia?
Well, yes, but social media is not something that's... People don't do social media for the sole purpose of doing social media. It's always a tool. So it's always a it's always means of connecting to other people. The whole approach to this discussion is always wrong. You know what I mean? So like we talk about it like it's...
No, I think I'd just like to add to that it's more of unawareness probably, because something that you don't know of, probably you will always look at it in a negative angle. But definitely most of us are using it.
Yes.
And there'll be hardly anyone in the room who says that I'm not using this particular platform. So when you don't know a particular thing probably, and you have that impression that it's taking you in the wrong direction, but once you start using it and you see the benefits of it, and then you see that why I was having that sort of a perception, and why it is so widely discussed, I think, in all conferences and everywhere, is because it's ever changing. Mm-hmm. It changes every day. I mean, you're sitting here today, in a week or so, you'll have another platform or you'll have another new feature, which probably the younger generation adapts to very quickly, but the others don't. So I think that's why it's the topic of discussion in every conference, in every forum, because it's ever changing.
I think we have to go back to the time when social media popped off, as you mentioned. It was during the pandemic, and we were coping with loneliness, separation, anxiety, even depression, right? So social media was a way for us to cope with these feelings, these anxieties. Social media is built for entertainment, not really information. That is why it's hard for politicians. That is why it's hard for journalists to jump into the trend. But since the people there, they see the value of being entertained and coping with this hard or difficult emotions that we were feeling during the pandemic. They saw the value of having their own time to look at the information if they want.
But I think the generation today wants the information in the form of entertainment. That's one way of getting to them. If you give them only information, then they're not too much inclined to watch it through. But if the content, like we talked of earlier in the session, that if the content is good, and if you engage them in a manner which is entertaining, then they do get...
entertaining, and if it is important to them, how will it benefit them? We have to think of the audience first. Definitely. When we're doing content or we're doing storytelling, either it's for TV, for radio, or whatever. We have to think of the audience first and what are their needs. So regardless if it's social media, if it's TV or whatnot.
Thank you so much. And to sum up the session today, I will, we don't have time for any more questions. We can take a quick one. That side? Yeah.
Hi, Bert from the Philippines. Do you think the social media platforms are doing enough to at least combat trolling, fake news, disinformation? Because the business models of all these social media platforms work like it's really engagement. So the more people are talking about it, the more engaged people are, the more they earn from it. So I think that's why some people are taking advantage of all of these social media platforms, especially politicians, is that
So is
they
that a
too
bad
are
thing?
benefiting. Yeah, that's why I'm asking our panelists, do you think the social media platforms are doing enough? Because we see some people selling followers. We see people benefiting from trolling. We see you see troll armies everywhere.
So are you saying that it's a bad thing to use social media?
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But the bad thing is when social media platforms are allowing trolling.
Yeah,
disinformation.
But like, I think it's always a very sensitive question to discuss this, especially in a democracy country, right?
Yes.
Like, who has the responsible to contain the fake news? If it's a government, oh my God, we are trying to be more authoritarian. But if you say the responsible is on the social media company, and it becomes another monopoly power that the social media platform may have more power, and it's dangerous. The
What is it
capital.
that should be done to control trolling on social media?
Free markets, competition, fight fire with fire.
Woo! Yeah.
So it's basically no control, and
I don't think you can control it. One person's troll army is another person's like supporter group, and it's like really hard. Like occasionally you can identify like coordinated, Russian bot farms and things, and in those cases platforms tend to take it down because it's like counterproductive to the experience. But I think a lot of the time it's not good for the democratic process to have too much control over that. You've just got to get better at these tools and fight back.
right. So there's no way out. You have to face it from the front.
Yeah.
There's no way out, and that's the
Right.
last words.
I mean, we are living a war of perception matters. So we really have to compete whose perceptions can be more influential. I think that's exactly the war that we are living in. We have to face this fact.
And for groups, for civic groups here, for politicians, trust your youngest staff, your youngest member to do the storytelling on social media. They know the language. So yes, I agree with you. We fight fire with fire.
Right. Thank you so much for your comments. I'd just like to give a few reflections that stand out after the conversations that we've had. Firstly, authenticity beats perfection. Young people don't want polished speeches. They want real voices that reflect their world. Secondly, creativity must coexist with credibility. You can be bold, funny, and emotional, but never careless with truth. And the third is that responsibility is the new relevance. In the age of infinite content, trust is what makes you stand out and what makes people stay. So because everybody said that content is the king, and that's what makes you stay on the platform for longer. You definitely have to be creative, but make sure that you're responsible and relevant at the same time. So as communicators, the challenge is not just to reach young people, but to respect their intelligence, their values, and their right to truth. So I think it's high time that we stop underestimating the power of social media and youngsters. They're very intelligent and they know exactly what they're doing. So it's their world now, and we need to coexist. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for your comments.